Welcome to Metaphysically Speaking, the show where we demystify the mysteries of the universe. Today we'll be giving a brief introduction to our series since we'll be covering some things that most people may not be familiar with. And we'll also be getting into something that's very important, protecting your energy. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to Metaphysically Speaking. I'm here today with Terry and Jennifer. And my name is Marissa, and we can go ahead and introduce ourselves.
I'm here because this, metaphysically speaking, everything paranormal, I guess, and that's such a broad term, is interesting to me. I guess I want to know what's out there in the universe. So thank you for inviting me. And Jennifer's an expert at paranormal.
I'm only an expert at anything, but hi, I'm Jennifer. I actually started seeing ghosts and spirits when I was a very young child in our house. As I became more of a teenager, I was really interested in astrology. However, I went to a parochial school, so that was totally taboo. Yeah. So we just kind of nixed that. When I was in my early 30s, my brother-in-law and I actually slipped back to a previous lifetime that we had together. Ever since that happened, my whole world at that point changed, my whole outlook. I started reading everything I could possibly get my hands on. Went to classes, lectures, seminars. Did that for basically 30 years, just trying to grasp enough information to make my own decision about the universe, basically.
Right.
And then after I retired, I joined a group called Scientific Paranormal Investigations. And that's been very interesting, too, to actually capture evidence, to go through and hear the EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. And it's always something, I like, just love learning about it. Always something new.
Right, there's always something that'll keep you going back.
That's right.
Having done that, I've done a little bit of that paranormal investigation as well, and it just piqued my interest all the more.
Absolutely.
See what I said, she's kind of experienced at many different things.
Well, I'm older.
Really, that's
Right, I don't have much experience with any of this, but I am mostly interested in astrology and tarot, and I'm excited to be a part of this show, not only to create a platform to discuss, but also for myself to learn more.
Yeah, and there's certainly a lot when it comes to the unknown with tarot. How does that work? And it does seem to work. I have had my cards read, and it seems pretty accurate to what I needed at that time.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I just happened to listen to a woman that wrote a book on reading tarot, and it depends on your phase of life. The cards are different, and that just is kind of supposed to be guidance for a decision, if it's a tough decision that you have to make. But there's a lot of study that goes into being able to read tarot cards, correct?
Right, and we may discuss that in a later episode.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fun.
So we're going to go through tarot,
Palm reading.
palm reading. Phew, I couldn't think of the word palm. And then even crystals and how they affect your life. If you believe in the energy of the universe, we have experts even in our own community that can come and talk about all this stuff. So I'm glad we're going to finally explore all of this.
Yeah. So we can start off with, what does metaphysical mean?
Right.
So there are a couple different definitions for metaphysical. The one we're referring to isn't quite like metaphysics, which is like the study of like the universe, more has to do with like science. And this, what we'll be talking about, isn't really like super scientific.
Provable science.
Not provable science, right, exactly. So it can often refer to like a more spiritual explanation for the universe. So we're still talking about the universe, just in our own mystical way,
our own,
metaphysical way.
and our own perception of what that means, and what the universe means, or the energy from the universe.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty vast.
Yeah, I mean, there are some other terms that are used interchangeably, like you think of spirituality. So, you know, a lot of people conflate spirituality with religion, and there is some overlap, but I think we use it in sort of more modern sense of what, like, our relationship to the universe and like what we think is going on around us.
Right.
There's also esotericism. So some scholars have used Western esotericism to refer to inner traditions concerned with a universal spiritual dimension of reality.
So would that be like the Native Americans?
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. It's just a system separate from religious traditions or traditional kind of beliefs. There's also supernatural, which is phenomena or entities beyond laws of nature, so spirits or extrasensory perception. And we'll be getting into some of that in some episodes too, so that'll be exciting. Also superstition. Superstition is any belief or practice considered by non-practitioners to be irrational or supernatural, attributed to fate or magic, perceived supernatural influence, or fear of which that is unknown.
That's a whole
so that's a lot of things.
And then different cultures have their own
their own beliefs, their own
beliefs, right?
their own superstitions.
Right.
Yeah,
and tinctures and all that to get rid of whatever the bad juju's going on.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting.
There's also a term that a lot of people use as like a blanket term and it's occult, which sounds scary, but it sounds almost like cult, but that's not what we're talking about. So the literal translation for occult is hidden. So it means like the knowledge of the hidden, or knowledge of the paranormal. So modern usages refers to sort of a belief outside of science and religion, to put it simply.
That makes sense, right?
It does.
And that's OCCULT, right?
Right.
Occult and not cult.
Right.
Which is a whole
That's
different
very different.
ballgame.
Yes.
So we know this show may not be for everyone. We respect our audiences and their beliefs, individual beliefs and perspectives, and we ask that you respect ours as well. I consider myself to be a skeptic most of the time, but there are some things that you just can't explain, and talking about these things sort of gives you some sort of explanation for those things that we don't know. And it's also fun to think about, right?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It is interesting. There's things out there that you just can't deny.
Right.
There's no explanation for them yet,
Yeah.
but you can't deny. I mean, there's many people that have seen ghosts,
Right.
and you can't tell them they haven't.
Right, exactly.
It's ingrained in them that they know that's what they saw. The same with people that see Yetis. So yeah, it's going to be fun to explore them.
Right, yeah, I didn't believe in ghosts until I had my own encounter.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that.
Right, so we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with Metaphysically Speaking. Welcome back to Metaphysically Speaking. So before our break, we kind of we're giving a disclaimer about our show, since it might be new to some people. But again, we don't want to invalidate anyone's perspective. We're here to explore discuss and understand various viewpoints and ideas. So we encourage our viewers to not only have an open mind, but also think critically. And you don't need to believe in everything we talk about on our show, but we encourage you to have an open mind about it. Our show doesn't aim to challenge or undermine anyone's religious beliefs. If you feel that any of the ideas presented conflict with your personal beliefs, that is completely fine. You don't have to watch this program if it isn't for you. Our intention is to provide a platform for thoughtful exploration, and we do not promote any harmful beliefs or practices.
Righto. Yeah.
So today we'd like to share what could be the most important thing to do before you dive into anything metaphysical, and that's protection. So
Yeah. So important.
yeah, so what do we need to know first? Like, why do we need to protect ourselves in the first place?
Yeah, so we talked earlier before the show, and Jennifer brought up, if you're at all an empath or sensitive, you are a sponge.
Yep.
And certainly you could be a beacon and a light to anything out there that's trying to communicate with you, and you don't want that to be hanging on all the time.
Right.
So I use sage to protect myself. Even if I'm having a bad energy day, I'll use sage, and you just burn sage. I have a little shell that I put my sage in, and I burn it and walk around my whole house or my office, or just have it around me. And sometimes I don't even feel like that's enough. Is there anything else that you do?
Can I go back to one other thing?
Yes, of
I don't think we even need to be metaphysically inclined, because some people aren't and don't need to be. But if you are intuitive, sensitive, and empath, like you mentioned, you are a sponge, and you really need to protect yourself. I'm talking about everyday type of things. Let's say, for instance, you are walking down a hallway and two people are having an argument, and you're going to pick up all that negative energy. You're going into a meeting, and you know it's going to be not a pleasant one, and so you want to kind of block all that from actually getting into your being. So I think it's a little broader thing, in my opinion, that we need to protect ourselves. When I protect myself, I do it every morning and every night. I just find it necessary. And depending upon what situation I'm going into, sometimes I will use different colors or a different type of a medium. But I picture myself in a big bubble of white light. And then I have like this little mantra type of a thing that I say to protect me. It's interesting too, I find myself, and I did this today, I was driving over here today, and I was kind of by an aggressive driver, and the traffic was getting kind of congested, and I thought, oh man. So then I put a gold bubble around my car.
Perfect, yeah.
Because you never can do too much.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. And if nothing else, that's putting your positive energy out there,
right?
Which is just so great. And we have a dear friend that reminds me all the time to put that bubble around me, and I do. Yeah, that's definitely. I don't even think about it. I think I just get up and go, okay, thank you, and have that my little mantra. And I think that really protects you to whatever your mantra is, and the bubble itself. Right. And I do use salt a lot too. I'm
around your house?
Not even sure what that does. Yep, around my house, my whole yard, the doors.
It's supposed to be a barrier to keep out the energy, negative energy.
Right.
That
like on your windowsill.
Yes. And the doors.
But I always think, since you're mobile, that you need to have something that protects yourself.
Right. Maybe like a crystal.
Certainly. I mean, for me, the bubble works the best.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody has their own idea.
Right.
Sometimes I'll even do a mirrored bubble, because I thought if it's a real negative situation, they're going to hit the mirror, and and then I have another little mantra that sends it back to the light, so I don't absorb anything.
Okay. Nice. That's kind of like the evil eye. The purpose of people wearing the evil eye it sends that bad energy back to whoever's sending it to you.
So that's another way to sort of protect your energy
Yes.
from outside forces.
Right.
And it's interesting you say that, like, when you're driving or just morning and night, because I was going to ask what sort of situation would we need to do this in? Like, is it when we know we're going somewhere with a high paranormal activity, or just like going to the grocery store? Or when?
My thought is that you're even going to the grocery store as an instance. You don't know who you're going to run into. You don't know what kind of a day they've had. You don't know their background, their history, what mental states they're in. So I always protect myself before I go out. I've just been doing it for so long that I don't think about not doing it any longer, because and a couple times I do have to admit, for whatever reason, I didn't do it. And I'll be sitting there and I'm thinking, why do I feel angry? I have nothing to be angry about. Or, why am I so sad? I have nothing to be sad about. But you absorb
picking up right.
other people's energy. And it's not that they intend to put it out, it's just they're going through something.
Seeps out of them.
Yeah, they're going through certain situations in their own lives, and and that vibration is going out, and unfortunately some of us absorb
Picking
it.
it up, yeah.
Which is not
it's
good.
like when you're at a party and somebody walks in the room that they just got in a fight outside, the whole room stops talking.
Yes.
And people don't realize that they're really noticing that.
Yeah.
It really is true, that bad energy.
Yeah.
And if you don't put that bubble or don't say something to protect yourself in the morning, it's almost like you're driving without your seatbelt.
Yes.
It is so important.
Right, so what happens if we don't protect ourselves? Because I'm sure most of us don't know, and we just go out into the world. So, like, what could happen if we just don't do that?
And so if you are picking up on somebody else's bad energy, or even an attachment, which happens, how do you turn that around?
Well, the attachment, or
start with just picking up on somebody's bad energy, and then when we come back, we can do the attachment stuff, because then we can talk about
what attachment it even is.
Why? How do we get that? Yeah.
Right.
I think most people are not even aware that, they're going about their everyday lives, and they're not even aware of that they're being exposed to all this, I call it like negative energy. Sometimes positive energy, and we like that. But we're not even, we just go through it, and you get to the end of the day and think, oh my God, why am I so
exhausted?
tired?
Yeah.
Why is this? And we're just not aware. It's just like pollution.
Right.
You live in pollution all day long. And
energy pollution.
yeah, and you're just not even aware that it's part of your normal life. But if you step back a little bit and start thinking about everything else that's going on, well, especially in the world today, I mean, there's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, no, I'm not going to watch the TV now, because I don't feel good when I watch it. It's just too negative. But if you do bubble up, well, I'm going to say bubble up.
I like it.
Or do whatever you need to do to protect yourself, you can at least look at it and not let it absorb into your being, and just keep it on the outside where it belongs.
Okay, great. Well, that's a great tool to have in our tool belt. Right, so we're going to take a short break again, and when we come back, we'll talk more about protection and attachments.
Canine Stray Rescue is Oxford's own local dog rescue. Each year they take in hundreds of dogs and bring them into suitable homes. A certified nonprofit organization, Canine Dog Rescue strives to give pound dogs a new leash on life. To To donate, adopt, or even volunteer, call them at 248-628-0435 or go to their website, dogsaver.org, and click on the Canine Stray Rescue League link.
Welcome back to Metaphysically Speaking. So right now we're going to talk about attachments. So what are they and how does that happen?
They're scary.
Sounds scary.
So, as Jennifer was saying, some people are very sponge-like. And so I'll tell my experience. We went in to investigate a home. We were called because this woman was getting scratched in the middle of the night.
Ow.
And so too was her boyfriend. So we were called there, and we weren't there 10 minutes, and all of a sudden I had a nasty headache. And a couple of our partners were in the kitchen, and all of a sudden one of our partners went flying across the kitchen backwards, and something had pushed him. So we knew right away. Number one, I was like, okay, I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
But we knew right away we were dealing with something that was not pleasant.
Right.
And we stayed, and probably too long, we knew that she had that attachment.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to get that, whatever it was, off of her. Well, on my way home, I knew somebody was in the car with me. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And it took lots of prayers, lots of saging, lots of salt, and lots of people praying for me. I went into this depression, and I could not get rid of it. And
Oh my God.
it was unexplainable, and I knew that's what it was. It was an attachment.
That's so
And
crazy.
it took a lot to get rid of it. And part of it was because when we went in there, we didn't protect ourselves enough. We saged ourselves, and I have my own little kind of ritual, but there needed to be more. We didn't know how dangerous it was in there.
Yeah.
And we ended up having to call a priest from Detroit, and he
my
had to do an
goodness.
exorcism for her.
Wow.
Because she actually became attached to the attachment. They were melded together.
Oh my
So
gosh.
that was my experience.
That's like a worst case scenario.
Yeah, it was pretty scary, and that was one of the very last investigations I did.
Yeah, I don't blame
because
you.
of that. I was very lucky that I got away from that. I got out of it.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of people praying for me, and I think that's what did it.
Yeah. Wow.
We've had some I've been to a lot of investigations where there's been scratches on people. Have you had that?
We've had claims of being scratched or being poked or other things.
or-
Yeah, things of that nature. But I've never had an attachment from an investigation, so that had to be awful.
It is.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it initially.
No,
That's
you
the
have no
whole thing.
idea.
I just about 3 days later, I'm like, why am I so depressed? There's no reason. And I was really depressed. And then it occurred to me, oh my goodness. I remember on the way home, I felt like somebody was in the back seat. I just kept thinking. And I actually turned around several times. And so that occurred to me that that's probably what happened. And we had a psychic. We had 2 psychics on our team. And they're like, yep, that's what's going on, and we'll work on it. And they did. There was about 15 people. No, maybe not that many. A dozen at least.
Yeah.
Helping me.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
not fun.
scary. And I have on 3 or 4 occasions actually been there when people have gotten scratched. All of a sudden they're burning, and we'll lift up their shirt and there's scratches down their back. It's pretty frightening. And
Yeah.
if you don't know what you're doing, we were new. We had been together for about 4 years, Motor City Ghost Hunters, and they're still around. But it was all like, I guess it's experimental every time you go into a place.
Right.
And I just felt like we were too exposed. We really exposed ourselves to a lot that we shouldn't have.
Right.
And you can damage, like you go into somebody's house that wants help, and if you're not doing the right thing, people really need to be careful. I know it's really a popular thing to do now, is to go ghost hunting. But you can stir up stuff.
Right. You
Make
have
it
to
10
be-
times worse for
You have to
them
be careful,
Yeah.
right?
than it was before. Yeah.
Especially like kids now are playing with Ouija boards.
Yeah.
And I don't care what anybody says, I think it opens something A lot of people say they're perfectly safe.
I wouldn't touch one.
I wouldn't touch one either.
No, and I did when I was 10 or 11, and on a sleepover, we all played with it, and I feel really lucky, knock on wood, because I really think you're asking for trouble.
Yeah.
And
Well, you're opening a door to something you have no idea what it is, who's on the other side. It's like leaving your front door open at your home. Somebody good can come through, but also somebody who's not very good can come through. So,
right.
not a good thing.
Yeah, it's something that we really need to be careful with.
Yeah,
This.
absolutely. Yeah. My
Scary.
first time of having an attachment, this is just, I think before, it was around the same time that my brother-in-law and I had this, when we slipped back to another
I can't wait till
time.
we talk about that too.
And my husband was in the hospital, and he had some back problems, and so he was in there for a while, and you go back and forth and working and everything. And also I felt really just kind of down, kind of depressed, and I'm thinking, what is this all about? Of course you're thinking, I'm working, I'm trying to do everything,
Yeah, a lot going on.
Yeah. And I happened to walk out into the living room, and I had a mirror there, and how you just kind of glance, and I glanced again, there was a black entity on my back, probably about this big.
Oh my goodness.
Actually attached to my back. And I couldn't believe it, could not believe it.
Yeah.
And, I didn't know too much about protection at that time. It was kind of a new phase for me. And so I remember thinking, okay, just pray. I said the Lord's Prayer, said everything I possibly could. And it took probably a good week or so for me to have this, because I check, every couple days.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Get out of here.
Yeah, and it finally left, but it's a horrible feeling.
Yes, it is.
Because you have no control about how bad you feel. I mean, normally it's like, okay, I'm not having a good day, but tomorrow will be better.
You can talk yourself out of it, right?
Yeah, but it's a totally different feeling. Wouldn't wish that on anybody.
No.
Yeah, another good reason to protect yourself.
Yes.
Right, remember to bubble up.
Bubble up.
Bubble
yes.
up. I love that. I was listening to a podcast just today of a priest who does exorcisms, and he was saying that some of those entities know if the holy water hasn't, that you're saying is holy water, right? If it hasn't been blessed. They actually know it.
They're intelligent.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. He was an interesting guy, and I'm only a third of the way through that podcast, so I can't offer much of what he had to say, but he's busy all the time.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure.
People need help, one way or the other. I mean, even if it's just comforting to have the guy around. But yeah, he's working all the time.
I bet he is.
And it's hard to find. We really had a hard time for that particular young lady. We had a really hard time finding a priest that was experienced at exorcisms. And you would think, with more that's going on TV, and you're seeing more and more of it, you would think that they would be more available to a community. But
I had heard, because we had one where we need to do and contacted a lot of different parishes and things, and apparently they choose not to do that or to teach that now. I don't know if it's liability. I don't know whether it's they're too busy doing other things, whatever that is. But it's interesting.
it's hard to find somebody.
Yes, very hard.
All right, well, I think that was a pretty great discussion today. We learned a lot about bubbling up, all these things that we can do to protect ourselves. And, it's a great way to kick off the series.
No, thanks for doing this.
Yes.
I think it's something that it's going to be fun to explore for the community that is interested in the unexplained, whether it's UFOs or ghosts or and whatever.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're doing it. Thank you.
I'm glad to be here. All right, well, you can join us next time on Metaphysically Speaking.
Bubble up.
Yeah, everyone remember to bubble up, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.